What is the purpose of visiting holy sites? A lot of spiritual aspirants in the modern day don't believe they need to actually go on pilgrimage or visit holy sites because they think they've come to a great understanding. But they are missing out on something very important that I'm going to speak with you about today. In most of Asia, pilgrimage is very important, and most Asians still practice pilgrimage to this day, and they go to all of the great locations throughout Asia, no matter if it's Arunachala, the Ganges, or whether it's one of the five Taoist mountains in China. It doesn't matter. Like, people have an urge to visit these holy places because it's part of the Asian psychology. Visiting these holy places is a way to reconnect with whatever the deity is of that place and or get some merit from visiting these places. Now, it's only since spirituality went west that a lot of Westerners have started to say, I don't need to go on pilgrimage. I already understand the nature of reality where I am. I don't need to leave my apartment. I know everything now. So there can be a lack of humility there, right? But that's beside the point. The point is that it is very important to visit holy places because not only is it a spiritual experience on its own, but it actually can develop your character and develop a deeper relationship with the ultimate reality itself. Now, throughout India particularly, pilgrimage is very, very important. Now, in Sanskrit, there's a word called kshetra. Now, kshetra is a location or an energy center where people have been going for thousands and thousands of years. As I said, think about Arunachala, think about the Ganga, think about the Chardham pilgrimage in the north, going to Badrinath, Kedarnath, these type of places. Think about these energy centers. Think about the Himalayas. I mean, massive, right? Yogis and sadhus have been going there for years. I've spent a lot of time in the Himalayas. And so it's very important to visit these places because you build a relationship not only with the pilgrimage itself, but you build a deeper relationship with yourself on these pilgrimages that you cannot find if you just stay in your apartment. Now, when I've conducted pilgrimages with people who have come on my tours, a lot of the people will say they never knew that existed, right? They never knew that existed about themselves, and that a lot of these tours that I've taken them on have been transformative, and they've discovered things about themselves that they could have never discovered in their comfortable surroundings. And I know this personally as well. Living in India for a long time, you find a lot of things about yourself that I couldn't have found if I had have just stayed in Australia, for example, right? So it is important to go on pilgrimage. And the way you ought to do this is not just go for one day. I would recommend at least 7 days at a particular location and to go into deep sadhana. Sadhana here being dedicated spiritual discipline or spiritual practice for a particular time, right? And so I've done this a lot in places like Arunachala, even up in the Ganga, and places like this in Bodh Gaya in North India where the Bodhi tree is, where the Buddha attained enlightenment. These type of locations where I'll have that dedicated time just for meditation, just for reading the great scripts, and just being quiet in general, right? And so you need to give yourself at least 7 days. But it's much better if you give yourself a month or even 3 months or 6 months you spend at a particular location. Now, the reason being, as I alluded to, is that say if you go to Arunachala, right? You go to Arunachala, you build a relationship with the deity. So you build a relationship with Shiva itself. Arunachala is considered to be a manifestation of Shiva himself, right? So you build a relationship with the deity. And I have a lot of friends who live in Tiruvannamalai who speak about this all the time, that because they've lived there for so long, they've built this relationship with Arunachala and they have this like deep connection with Shiva, right? And so you can't get that from watching videos on Arunachala or reading about Arunachala or reading a few books from Ramana Maharshi. You can't get to that place. You need to actually visit the location. Now, this is why Swami Prabhupada said that every year you need to make an effort to go back to India. Now, I know he's speaking from the Krishna consciousness perspective, but as I've found out throughout my life, I think it's a great point, because often you can go to your familiar surroundings and, in the West particular these days, everything is taken care of, right? Everything is comfortable, and you can sometimes forget about the ultimate nature because all you're doing is making money, feeding your face. You're not concentrating on the ultimate. So, as Swami Prabhupada said, it's important to go back to India every year, just for a little bit, just for a couple of weeks. It won't hurt you, it won't hurt you. You go back, go to a particular location, ground yourself, and then you can go back to your familiar surroundings. And I see a lot of people who have done this, who come from overseas to India a lot. But not just that, also Indians within India, they're always on pilgrimage. They're always traveling. You need to go to these kshetras. You need to go to these energy centers that contain a lot of power. Then that can further your own spiritual practice. It really can. It really can enhance your own spiritual practice. And as I said, this is important because you build a relationship with that place or with the deity, right? It's so important. In China, you often see people do the pilgrimage to the 5 Taoist mountains or the 5 Buddhist mountains. And that takes a lot because those mountains are not close. Look, they don't walk the whole way, right? They're obviously traveling in between. But there's a connection to that. And it's interesting because when you connect to these kshetras, you're connecting to the sages and the sadhus before and the yogis and the lineage of spiritual practitioners who have been going there for thousands of years. You connect with that rather than having kind of a self-absorbed perspective of spirituality where you just sort of live within yourself all the time and you don't actually visit these places. It's important to visit these places. It really is. And that's why pilgrimage is an essential part of the spiritual traditions in Asia particularly. You need to get out there and you need to see the world, and you need to have an intention of why you're going to that place. The intention is important. My intention is to go to the Ganga, is to go to Varanasi. My intention is to go to Rishikesh. My intention is to go to the Bodhi tree. And so there's a particular intention at why you go there. And so that's important for all of us to think about. And so I wanted to share that with you guys today, is that the importance of pilgrimage and actually why we go on pilgrimage. The reason why we do that, as I said, is because we are building that relationship more and more throughout our life with the ultimate reality of existence. Call it Brahman, call it Tao, call it whatever you will. But that's the importance of it. You are building that relationship step by step throughout the life that we have, which is only temporary. But what is promised by the sages who have gone on these pilgrimages is the more that you do it, the more closer you get to moksha, nirvana, kaivalya, step by step throughout your life on the pilgrimage, but also in the life that you are living. So guys, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Shanti, shanti, shanti.